Hello, and welcome to another Pioneer game with myself, John, and my partner, Jay. And today we have a Gruul Aggro deck versus Rakdos Sack. Now, Jay, what do we think of the matchup?
Well, I mean, it's two well-known decks-ish. Gruul Aggro has had to change recently, moving away from so many Sky Sovereigns and Chariots, and trying to play, big Convoke creatures or
Mm-hmm.
the new Thrill Seeker instead.
Yeah.
Rakdos Sack is what we've seen for a while, but with a new toy of Nixilus Captive Kingpin, I believe it's called.
Mm.
So that is sort of the core Vold from the old Jund sacrifice decks, but is now in Rakdos colors.
Yeah.
So there's no
Like,
there's no need to splash green anymore, really.
yeah. I mean, it's still technically a Jund deck because of the companion, but you know, it's interesting how Rakdos Sack, to be fair, it's been kind of doing well without Kovold. So would this does the addition of Nixilis actually change sort of like how it plays? Like what is it replacing in the deck and over, what it had before the new card came out?
Yeah, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not really sure what it replaced, but it is a strong card, and I think it's worth testing out. It gets you some card advantage. It's a pretty efficient beater, and I think it's worth testing out. I know Rakdos Sack used to be a thing before Obnixilis, but it does kind of replace the core Vold in the Jund sacrifice. I would say maybe you just take out some of the smaller stuff.
Yeah.
So maybe you take out an unlucky witness. I don't think that's what it is. It's a witness of some kind.
Yeah. I mean, like, there's also it's a 4-drop, right? So is it taking up the Shouldred slot? Is this a budget Rakdos sack deck? You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, I don't believe Rakdos Sack has played Shieldred all that much. It's more of the mid range. I believe that's sort of the differentiator between Rakdos Sack and Rakdos mid range is
Hmm.
the Shieldred versus Mayhem Devil,
Yeah.
Cat and Oven versus Bone Crusher,
Yeah,
and
definitely.
and the and those are the main differences really, because there's still the Blood Tide Harvesters, the Fables. Oh,
Oh,
and this is interesting. See, a Claim the Firstborn on an elf.
which will allow the Rakdos sack player to sack the elf with Deadly Dispute. So the Claim the Firstborn is a card that makes a lot of sense with sort of the synergies of the Rakdos sack deck, where they have a lot of things that sacrifice creatures, their own creatures typically, but it turns cards like Claim the Firstborn into pseudo removal spells.
True, and it doesn't just do that, because you also get value whenever you sacrifice a creature.
Hmm.
So Claim the Firstborn meant that they were able to Deadly Dispute
Yeah.
on turn two, when they shouldn't have enough mana to be able to claim and Deadly Dispute,
Yeah.
because they took an elf, which is very cool. And so
And
even though they used two cards, they got two cards back. They got rid of an elf and they got a treasure.
yeah. And we do see a stomp coming in. And the Rakdos sack player, believing he was going for face, probably hopeful, because why wouldn't you deal with the cat in this position, right? Like shields were kind of down for Rakdos sack player, and it's an engine you kind of want to stumble as much as possible.
Yeah, once the cat is in the graveyard, there's not as many easy ways in this kind of deck to get it out. There's pretty much only the oven that makes
Mm,
food.
yeah.
And so it means that they have to sacrifice another creature, potentially another cat, even, to
Hmm.
be able to get the food to bring the cat back.
Yeah. And Blood Type Harvester. Now that this card, right? This is a card that sees a lot of play in Rakdos mid range as well. What do you think is kind of like? But it's such a solid card, right? It's a 3/2 for 2 mana that could eventually become removal for small creatures or bigger creatures, depending on the blood token, and it's single handedly stopping a the Reckless
The
Storm
3
Seeker.
mana, yeah.
Like so the Gruul Aggro player couldn't take advantage of that card just purely because this 3/2 is on the board. And
Yeah. I'm personally not a big fan of rate creatures, especially in the colors black and red with no drawbacks. I feel like above rate creatures should potentially have drawbacks or just be vanilla creatures.
yeah. And
So I think Blood Tithe Harvester does too much. You saw there it was able to, with the blood token, they were able to sacrifice the Blood Tithe Harvester, giving the Stormseeker -2/2, but then also give it the ping from Mayhem Devil to finish it off. So now we have quite a heavy board against nothing from the Gruul aggro player.
yeah, and
It looks like they've got a Love Struck Beast in hand, so we'll probably see a human and a beast come down.
yeah, the thing with the Gruul Aggro deck is it doesn't inherently have card advantage, right? It's kind of relying on the value of how they're like how good their creatures are in rates. But Rakdos Sack, on the other hand, it runs creatures that develop increment value constantly. And I guess you can assume like a worst case scenario where, they don't have some of their payoffs. They're kind of just chumping with things until they eventually get there, right? Because the cat will eventually gain them enough life. They have access to other types of removal. Gigantha's in the sideboard to be a big creature. The Rakdos Sack is kind of safe, and there's quite a few redundancies. And the reason we're talking a lot about these decks is because there's a lot of contemplating going on. I don't blame
I'm
them.
not sure. I believe there might be a Mayhem Devil in the Rakdos Sack player's hand, and they are choosing to drop it. There's not much removal in this dual aggro list, so dropping more Mayhem Devils, it doesn't really lose you anything. There is a treasure and a blood, so potentially they could ping 4 damage just from those two and the Mayhem Devils at something.
And
One thing that they could do, bit strange, but they could sacrifice a treasure and ping their own witness to be able to exile the top 2 cards of their deck.
yeah, just try to get as much cards out, right? It is important to keep in mind they can only play one of those cards. It's not a play those 2 this turn, is you play one.
Yeah.
So it will exile. So if there are 2 good cards off the top, it's kind of a feel bad moment, right?
Agreed, but it's still good. Having the card selection is pretty good. And here we say, the big convoking dinosaur. I believe it's called Ancient Imperiosaur.
It is, and this is a spicy card coming in from Marching Machines, where personally don't know how it really fits into the Gruul into this like style of list. It doesn't really develop the board wide enough to make full advantage of it, but it is a card that kind of could get cast, right? It has the elves. It could generate 2 creatures off the beast and the human. It's an interesting inclusion, but definitely something that the Rakdos Sack player has to deal with, because we're now in a position where they can't even machine gun it with the 2 Mayhem Devils, right? Because it's Ward 2. Each instant target has to be paid. You have to pay 2 mana towards.
Yep, it will. It's going to be very difficult to get rid of it.
Oh,
they would need an obscene amount of mana to be able to do all of that.
Yeah, and
I believe there's no straight up removal in Rakdos Sack's list. They have Claim the Firstborns, which can only take mana value 3 or less.
Yeah, and I mean they can take a beast, but then what? I think so. They're opting to sack the blood, and they're gonna kill the 2/1/1s from the Mayhem Devils, and they're looting through. The Rakdos Sack player is in a position because they don't even have like a clean block for the Regisaur. I don't know what the removal sweep for Rakdos Sack is in game 1.
Yeah,
necessarily.
I don't think they have removal, and if they do, it will only be, you know, 1 or 2 copies of removal.
Mm,
If they really are searching though, we might see the treasure token, you know, and Mayhem Devils take out the witness to be able to search for
yeah.
more things. Also, I believe the Imperiosaur has trample, which means that all of these blocks are just terrible blocks.
Basically. And the Rakdos Sack player is opting to buy Gigantha in this position and is playing another land. I think the Rakdos Sack player is also mana flooded a bit.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it looks like they've gone through 7 lands and they have 7 non-land cards available on the battlefield graveyard and in their hand, not counting Gigantha. So
Yeah.
it means that they've drawn, you know, 50% lands, 50% non-lands, which is
Mm,
not the rate you're looking at if you're going to attempt to stay competitive. And it basically has undone all of the good work that Deadly Dispute and the Blood Token have done in terms of trying to get rid of some of the lands and get more gas into the hand.
mm. It is an interesting board state, right? The other beast that cannot attack, the 5/5, because he lost both the 1/1s. He could activate Den, but the Rakdos Sack player can then just sacrifice a treasure token to kill the Den before it can even attack.
Yeah, it looks like they're choosing to shock in a stomping ground.
Oh, some tapping of mana. So 6 mana being tapped. Is this another dinosaur? Oh, it's another
So
one.
another Imperiosaur.
So one of the things with Imperiosaur, so the convoke payoff is outside of obviously you can pay just with creatures to cast it, is that for each creature used to cast it, it gets 2+1/+1 counters. So best case scenario, this card becomes a 20/20. And
Yeah, I don't think the Rakdos Sack player can do anything against 2 of these.
no, and
I
the top deck
I
man.
think Gruul Aggro is a very strong wording for this sort of Gruul deck. It seems to be like a Gruul ramp deck
Yeah.
with, you know, a Lovestruck be sort of, you know, it creates 2 creatures, so it kind of ramps.
Mm,
And then the elves obviously ramp, and then Stormseeker being able to give these Imperiosaurs haste
yeah.
is it's just mental. It can be game winning. So it's kind of like a Gruul ramp deck, which is quite cool. And as the Rakdos Sack deck is quite low, does not have much removal, and also does not gain that much life. You talked about the cats gaining life earlier,
Mm,
but that is sort of like a grindy matchup. You know,
yeah.
against the 20 damage swing every turn, the cat will not be able to gain enough life.
Mm. And I do believe the Rakdos Sack player, one of the cards in hand is Claim the Firstborn, I think. I've seen flicked
Yeah,
around through. And
I
it is a
believe
difficult
the other
decision.
Ganther.
Yeah. I believe the Rakdos Sack player is seeing if there is sort of a line here, right? Where they can sacrifice their way into a win, possibly. So so the Rakdos Sack player is opting to deal 2 damage to face. And one of the things about Rakdos Sack that I do notice is that the lines are never entirely clear. Sometimes you have to play to your outs, right? So like drawing with that blood token, they're looking for another card potentially to sack in order to continue sort of the damage train going.
Agreed. I mean, right now on the board, they've got 9 damage against 1 blocker, so that's 6 damage. That
Mm,
would put Gruul Aggro down to 8.
yeah,
And the treasure token deals 2 damage, that's 6.
yeah.
So they just need a way to deal 6 more damage.
The blood type was played this turn though, so they
Uh,
yeah
no, I was talking about the treasure. Oh, sorry, yes, the blood
yeah
type
yeah.
can't attack. I see.
Um, I don't even know what he played. Is that card that when you sack 2 creatures, make 2 black mana, draw a card, and your
Oh,
opponent
Priest of
sacrifices
the
a creature?
Forgotten Gods. It does, because, and that would be quite good because it does make, it is an out. It does make the Gruul player sacrifice an Imperial Saw. However,
Unfortunately,
I believe it's a bit too late. I don't think they can survive a turn to be able to
no.
use that.
All right, sacking the treasure, dealing 2 damage. You'll then use Claim the Firstborn to give that card haste. So this is what I mean by lines. So lines are being played now. Tapping the creature to sacrifice. Okay, so they're determining whether to go into battle first, which they are. So then, in response to the blocks,
So
sacrificing 2 creatures.
sacrificing a Mayhem Devil and a Bloodtide Harvester.
Yeah.
So that's 4 triggers.
Yeah, there's 4 damage straight to the face. Straight to the face, 4 damage, and then 3 damage from Mayhem Devil.
Yep. And then 2 damage from Priest of the Forgotten Gods.
Hmm.
So they're on 3 life.
What is that?
I'm not sure where that one came from.
Okay.
The Witch's Oven in hand, they can play it, sacrifice a priest, and then bring the cat back.
Yeah, and that's game right there. And that's game right there. They have 2 black mana floating.
Oh yeah, from the priest.
Yeah.
Oh no. Do they? Because that was done during combat.
Oh, that is true. That is true. Second main phase.
And I don't you need to pay to tap Oven?
No, you don't need mana. Oven just taps for free.
Okay.
So it allows them to sack a creature here, make a food token, and
yeah, and
wait,
then
what
bring the
happened
cat back. So I believe Gruul is now scooping, or potentially Rakdos is scooping.
So, oh, what?
Okay, so Rakdos is scooping. They couldn't get there.
I'm confused because they had the one the cast up.
I think Gruul was on 3 life. That's all I can think about. Because yeah, they had the oven. They can sack. They can bring the cat back, and that's 2. That's actually 3 damage, isn't it? From the food sacking, the initial.
Yeah. So
sack.
if they played the oven, sacked the priest, that's 1 damage. Make a food token, sack the food, make a cat. The cat comes in, deals 1 damage. So that is 3 damage regardless. So a confusing concede because they actually won, and this is what I mean by playing to their outs. They played the best line there.
Yeah, I'm confused as well. Maybe we're missing something.
Like, I don't know.
I think the Rakdos sack play should have won.
Yeah, or maybe the editing. The problem was it was like chat magic, right? So we had no idea what was going. They're both gone. What? Maybe it's possible because the Raptor sack player did not look at the cat once, right? In the end there. So maybe he forgot that the cat was in the graveyard. I know, right?
Yeah. Potentially.
Oh man.
So we're on to game 2 now. Sideboard, probably some exile removal from Gruul aggro, and maybe Rakdos sack brought in.
Okay, so
some Thoughtseize effects or some removal. So it was definitely Gruul aggro who won because Rakdos sack is on the play.
Unless Gruul is so confident on the play game that they've opted to go second. Nah, I don't. I believe, yeah.
So we are currently under the opinion that Rakdos sacrifice missed lethal. We'd appreciate any comments of anyone if you had any ideas of whether they did miss lethal or if we got something wrong.
But there is that magical 1 damage that he took out of nowhere as well, which I still have no idea where that came from.
I'm not sure where that came from. However, he could still deal 3 more damage, so that magical 1 damage doesn't even matter, right? Because of the cat, the food, and the sacrifice to the oven.
I guess it is very likely he forgot about cat in the graveyard.
Can we talk about how lucky that draw was and how well that was played up until missing the cat oven?
Like the fact that the fact that what was it? The claim the firstborn can target your own creatures is a big thing, right?
Yeah, it's quite good. Here we see instead of the Stormseeker staying back, they've chosen to just send it in and trade with the Blood Tide,
And
which is great for Rakdos sack, especially if it ends up being a grindy game because trading your 2-mana creature for a 3-mana creature is fantastic.
yeah, but I think there's also a consideration of like, well, the Gruul aggro player knows that by leaving a creature like Blood Type Harvester on the board, it means that when it sacrifices itself, it's benefiting the deck that way. So by removing, I guess, a sack outlet, right? It's giving an option for Gruul aggro to not just get machine gun to death nearly like game one.
Yeah, potentially. Or maybe they have something that they want to play and potentially protect. The but here we see where it may not have been the best decision because if they had kept the Stormseeker around, they would have been able to play Chariot through Chariot with the cats and then use Stormseeker to give the Chariot haste and then immediately create another cat. So personally, I'm on the opinion that keeping the Stormseeker, giving the Chariot haste is the best line of play. And it is initially why the Gruul Boats deck became so powerful because of the Stormseeker into Chariot into boat plays that you could do that would put an immense amount of pressure on the board in just one turn.
And we do see the Rakdos sack player have the oven in hand and is choosing not to play it for a while now. Would you think a turn 3 Fable is more important than the oven in this instance?
I would say yes, because in this game, it's less about the grind, as we saw from game one. It's more about trying to finish the opponent off quickly. Potentially, I mean, you can see that they dropped 2 lands off Fable. They were quite mana flooded in their hand.
Yeah.
So I think Fable was right cool. It's also the much more mana efficient play to play a 3 mana Fable rather than a 1 mana Oven.
Yeah. That is true. And walking the Goblin in just to make that treasure token. So 5 mana available now for the Rakdos sack player.
It looks
And
like they might be playing another Fable and a Oven.
yeah, tapping 1 mana for the oven. So that it makes that cat an infinite blocker. And a second Fable of the Mirror Breaker. What a card to have dominated multiple formats, right?
Yeah, it's an impressive card. It just puts so much power and toughness onto the battlefield over so many turns.
Yeah, it's a card that needs to be dealt with in the stack, right? Like you can't just like as soon as it lands, it's still making a goblin that makes treasure tokens, which is like that's insane.
Agreed. All 3 parts of the saga are just incredibly powerful, and there's just so much value available. And once it's on the battlefield, the only clean answer, to my knowledge, is Unleash the Inferno, which is a Jund 4 mana spell.
Also farewell.
Yeah, but that's a 4 mana and a 6 mana play, and they only work as sort of clean answers, turn after Fable comes down, because if you don't do it the turn after Fable comes down, they get the loot, and they've already gotten some advantage out of the Fable.
I mean, would it invoke despair? I guess again that's a 5 mana card.
Yeah.
Okay.
The best card to deal with Fable is the Spell Pierce.
Yeah. And in regards to vehicles, we do see that I forget this card's name. There's a card coming out from the Gruul aggro sideboard that is targeting the graveyard
Yes,
here.
unlicensed Hearse.
Yeah.
So you can exile up to 2 cards from a single graveyard a turn. I believe that there's a sort of sequencing thing here. You cannot exile the cat until they sacrifice the food to try and bring the cat back.
Yes, because sacrificing the food is paying a cost, but they can respond to the payment of the cost.
Yes. So you want to basically respond to the trigger of the cat is meant to be coming back to the battlefield. So you respond saying, in response, I exile your cat. Goodbye. It is gone forever.
Yeah, but the Rakdos sack player is opting to sack the goblin, I think.
No, it looks like they sack the cat. The cat's in the graveyard. Oh, it's because they blocked and then they sacrificed the cat.
Yeah, and they
Oh,
didn't answer the cat.
so yeah. So the Gruul player. This is still their turn, I believe. They
Yeah, this is
decided to exile
battle.
2 other cards instead,
Yeah.
which probably is not the best because it does let the cat come back later.
Mm.
When if they hold the hearse, the cat can never come back.
Yeah. So they're using a dice on the witch's oven to represent the food tokens here. Yeah. Got nothing else to talk about. This is a grindy game with a lot of talks and conversations, and I was mistaken. It was the Gruul Aggro players' turn when they did all that. But it is interesting that they didn't go after the cat, like genuinely.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Potentially, they may not think that they can because they think that if they tap their hearse now, they may try to exile the cat, and the cat just comes back with the food.
But
there is the opportunity in response to exile the cat.
yeah, but also as well, he was responding to the food token being made by the witch's oven. So I'm not entirely sure because there was a strange sequence where the cat just went straight to the graveyard, and then
One potential reasoning is the Rakdos sack player is never going to sacrifice their food to bring a cat back, whilst the hearse is untapped.
Yeah. So now would
But
be
the
the best
Gruul
time.
player wants to make a huge hearse.
Yeah.
They want a huge attacker. So potentially they're just going, I'm going to kill you anyway, regardless of your cat. So I'm going to make a huge creature with hearse.
Yeah.
Where they would never get to tap their hearse in the future because the Rakdos sack player would probably never ever consume the food to bring the cat back. Oh, and here we see a crop. And it's made us look like big idiots because munching the graveyard from unlicensed hearse actually is quite decent against a Croxer.
Yeah, that's but we didn't see Croxer game 1. So it wasn't necessarily, it could not have been something that the Gruul Aggro player could have played around if he didn't know about it. It's a card I completely forgot about. But the advantage of sacking that with the oven in response is that because of how big it is, it creates 2 food tokens. Because I believe the threshold for when you sacrifice a creature below a certain power just makes the 1.
I believe it. Yeah, I believe it might be toughness 4. I'm not sure. So I think they're bringing the cat back. But also, if they kept the hearse untapped here, they would have been able to exile the Croxer and the cat in response to the cat trigger coming back.
Yeah.
So again, it is just simply better to leave the hearse untapped. It's meant to be a threat that you always leave open.
Yeah, so they're discussing how the interaction has happened. And there's been a lot of discussions in this game.
Yeah, I think the Gruul player might be confused because Croxer, when it ETBs, it does say sacrifice it, but you can respond to that sacrifice trigger by sacrificing it.
Yes,
to Witch's Oven.
Because it is a separate line of text.
Yes. You can also use Croxer to crew vehicles.
That is, well, in response to the sacrifice trigger.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, and a common play you might see is Village Rites to sacrifice Croxer and draw cards. Or Deadly Dispute in response to the trigger.
Yeah.
Because you're going to lose it anyway. You still get the discard trigger, so really you aren't losing anything by doing that. And here we see a Priest of Forgotten Gods in the second main from Rakdos Sacrifice.
Oof. And the Rakdos Gruul, the Gruul Aggro player is developing a massive board already, which could be overwhelming, but I mean, he's not interacting with the Mirror Breaker here. The Mirror Breaker is still on the board.
True. Mirror Breaker does get a token, which would allow the priest to, more easily sacrifice creatures.
So it's possible what's going to happen here is the Rakdos sack player could create a clone of the cat. Cat comes in, drain one life. Then it gets sacked to the priest, which could draw a card or two cards, and hopefully just get into more answers. Because I think this board would be more devastating with a beast on the board, right? Not a beast, a devil, mayhem devil on the board.
Yeah, right now it looks okay. The priest can, make them sacrifice, make them lose some life, but they've got a lot of creatures to sacrifice on the Gruul aggro player's side. So I don't think they're that fussed, and their life total is quite healthy. I think they're just trying to smash in, and I think they're wanting the Rakdos sack player to have to make some awkward blocks. I mean, let's look at the power here. We have. So I know we've got 9 from the Chariot and the Lovestruck Beast.
And
it looks like there's one cat coming in as well, because I guess the other 2 crude.
Yeah.
I'm not sure where the spirit tokens from Sokkenzan have gone.
I believe they're being held back. No, they're also attacking. They have to be, because everything else is tapped. The elf being untapped and the one cat being created.
Potentially they may have been used in conjunction with a cat to crew the chariot.
I see. The board can get quite cluttered in positions like these. And
yeah, it can, especially with so many tokens and not everyone having all the tokens, especially when Fable of the Mirror Breaker token is about a $5 now.
Yeah. Oh, and that Fable has survived the turn, and we have a second one coming down. So we have potentially an end step, make infinite attackers. I say infinite, but make loads of attackers and just go for game that way. But it could also make a lot of blockers, possibly.
Well, I mean, you can only make the 2 blockers really because you tap them to be able to copy more.
That's true. Oh, and a land. I mean, they could use the blood token. It's on the board. No. Okay, they're not using the blood token.
I think they may have regretted that. I saw them trying to kind of picking the land up and being like, oh wait, maybe I should have blacked to the blood token.
Yeah.
It looks like they may just be dead on board next turn.
So Drain with the cat comes in.
They can gain 2 life and block for free to 2 creatures by using the fables to copy the cat.
Yeah, and then sacrificing one of them to the priest.
Well, sacrificing both of them to the priest because they can make 2 copies with the fables. Yeah, I believe that's what they're going to do. And then they can also use this block with the cat and sacrifice it to the oven.
Yeah.
So they've got 3 chump blockers effectively without having to lose anything in their board, anything of worth. And they also gain 2 life from the triggers and get to draw a card and make the opponent sacrifice a creature, which may be relevant, but they'll probably just sacrifice one that's been crewed.
Okay. I mean, I guess let's do the same thing. Crew a chariot.
One thing of note would be how different would this game be if they still had Stormseeker from the beginning of the game. It's now night. Stormseeker gives trample. Oh, and well, there's Ancient Imperiosaur. Again, if they had the Stormseeker still out, this would just be game.
Yeah.
So I think them choosing to trade the Stormseeker for the Blood Tithe was potentially not the right call in this scenario.
Potentially, but then we did see like there were the two fables. There was another
True.
blood tithe in the meantime. Like it would have eventually been able to kill it.
There could have been some copy shenanigans with the fables. That is true.
Yeah.
That is true.
And going in with 2 cards. So it's interesting because you know that they're just going to be blocked by 2 cloned cats. So
well, they're attacking, I believe, with 3 cats, the chariot, and the love struck beast.
Yeah.
No, 2 cats. Sorry. So they're attacking with 2 cats, the chariot, and the love struck beast. So potentially 2 cats get through. That's 4 damage. It's a decent amount, and it could make the difference, especially with the Imperial Sword, and especially since Rakdos Sacrifice can gain a little bit of life here and there. They can actually start sacrificing food tokens, which is something to consider. 3 life is quite a decent chunk. Right now, it's over a quarter of the Rakdos Sacrifice player's life total.
Poof. It's a lot of thinking.
Yeah, Rakdos Sacrifice games really, really go grindy, and I feel like there's just so many different paths you can take. It's quite a difficult deck to play, in my opinion, because there's a lot of triggers that happen, and there's a lot of ordering triggers. I personally find it a nightmare to play this deck on Arena to do all of the Mayhem Devil triggers.
Oh yeah. Interestingly, did not do any of that.
So the thing is, they may be looking at creating 5 more copies of Reflection of Kiki Jiki. Like you were talking about, there are 2 blockers from the other side.
Yeah.
If they bring the cat back, that puts them at 14. Priest can deal 2 damage. They might just be able to do enough damage, which is yeah. So I believe the Rakdos Sack player is making the copies in end step.
Yeah. So this is the end step cloning thing I was talking about. Maybe they're bringing back the cat with a food token as well in this timing?
Possibly, although there is the hearse still untapped, so they probably wouldn't want to. So the reason they can do this is Reflection of PGP, you make a copy of another target, non-legendary creature, and then you sacrifice it at the beginning of your next end step.
Yeah.
Hence, sorry, at the beginning of the next end step.
Yeah.
If you do it during an end step, it's already past the beginning of the end step, and therefore it looks for the next beginning of an end step, which is at the following turn. So you get to keep the copies for effectively an extra turn.
Yeah.
And also untap. Which I don't think the creators of Fable of the Mirror Breaker accounted for.
Possibly not.
When playtesting.
Possibly not. They are opting to sacrifice 2 tokens, I imagine, to the priest in order to generate the mana and draw the cards.
Yeah, so here it's kind of free, isn't it? Because you have to pay a mana to get a reflection every time anyway.
Yeah.
And so getting the 2 mana and sacrificing 2 reflections just means you end up with the same amount of reflections, but you get a priest trigger. So it's very smart for the Rakdos Sack player.
And 1 mana left. What's the Rakdos Sack player going to do with it?
Make another. Are they going to use the treasure as well?
I mean, it's possible. I
can't read the dice from here. I believe there's now 6 fables on the battlefield, including the 2 original.
Yeah, there should be 6. If he sacrificed 2 to make 2 mana. There is, he's sacking the treasure.
Oh, so now there is 7 fables.
And 2 blockers still, right? Yeah, trigger on the stack.
Oh, trigger on the stack, exile. There we go. Very good from the Gruul Aggro player to catch that.
Yeah.
Although
that timing.
I believe they should have sacrificed the food. I'm not sure if they did move the dice on the.
They have
witch's oven.
sacrificed the food.
Okay, sorry, I missed that.
I don't blame you, Jay. This like, like you sat there and we kind of have like, right, this is the play, and the players are like, I will contemplate my next move, and you're like, fair enough. You're allowed to contemplate your next move, but man,
So what would just be game here? Mayhem Devil.
Mayhem Devil off the
Would
top
that
may win it.
be because there's the blood token, the witch's oven,
Mm-hmm.
and also Priest of Forgotten Gods would now deal 4 damage.
Oh, actually, no, just make even more tokens, right? Am I wrong?
Yeah,
Just make even more
so-
tokens to attack with.
But you can't. Oh, okay. So I see. So you don't lose one of the fables if you attack with everything. Oh,
Yeah.
and look, it looks like the food was not used.
Oh, okay.
So
It
now
looked
the
like
Gruul
it was
aggro player.
used.
So now the Gruul aggro player moved the dice to ensure
Yeah.
that the food is gone.
It's interesting.
So I'm not sure what they're doing here. They're making a lot of reflections again, a lot more of them.
Yeah, because it's with only 2
So-
blockers, it should push the Rakdos sack damage over the top.
No, but the
Oh, they're
making
tapping. Yeah, so nothing
creatures.
actually happens.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so the net amount of attackers doesn't go up. So I'm not sure why they're doing this.
Maybe they're
Unless
doing
they
it for
have
the priest.
Yeah, unless they have a Mayhem Devil in their hand, because all of the reflections at the end of turn get sacrificed.
Yeah. Well, he might be digging for it, but with only 2 mana, 4 mana now.
Yep, because of the priest, they could potentially have drawn a Deadly Dispute, which would let them draw another 2 cards and get a treasure.
Hmm.
I'm not sure what they have.
Are they making more? Oh, they're making 2 more. Or 1 more.
They might. They might make another one and then copy the priest, because the priest can then be used again. Correct.
Yes.
So that might be what they do, and that way you don't lose any mana.
Did the Gruul Aggro player sacrifice a creature there? Oh, they must have.
Yeah, they did. They sacrificed a 1/1 spirit.
All right. Oh my word.
What is in their hand? I believe the Rakdos Sackflesh should be able to get there. I'm not sure.
Possibly. But you know what? Jay? Let's look at the good points in this game. For a start, the Rakdos Sack player is wearing a great shirt. I am a big fan of the tropical pattern. I'm aware that he had recently come back from Thailand, so this could be one of those shirts that he'd gotten in his excursion. Probably meditated under the waterfall for a bit, so he's become a more patient man as a result.
Yes, I know he does enjoy these pattern shirts. He does also claim his partner likes them too. Although I personally am not convinced by them.
Well, Jay. What's more important to the guy is that his partner likes him. End of the day, it's like having a beard,
but
right?
Really, my opinion is more important.
Jay, I'm not entirely sure. If he was dating you, it would probably matter.
No, I think my opinion should trump that of his partner.
I don't know.
I'm not. Can you explain to me what's going on here? I believe that there we go. So they're copying in another priest.
Yeah.
And tapping another priest.
Mm-hmm.
Sacrificing some of the tapped fables.
Yeah, generate more mana.
So they lose another 2 life. They have to sack another creature. They gain some more mana.
Is this potentially an infinite combo?
No, they lose 1 mana each time they do it, because they have to pay twice. Yeah, and they get 1. Sorry, they don't lose 1 mana. They lose 1 creature each time.
Yeah, total. Okay.
Yeah, because they create 2 creatures, but one of them doesn't get sacrificed, so they have to have another creature somewhere.
But it is draining 1 life each time it's happening, right?
2 life. It drains 2 life.
2 life each time it's happening.
Yeah.
Okay.
And now that they have to sacrifice a creature, they're choosing cat. I'm not sure why they tapped a land. Oh yeah, they had to tap a.
to make
No, I'm not
another
sure why they tapped
copy, I believe.
it.
And
So what did they draw?
well, they have 2 black mana floating. They can deal based on our estimations. Oh, Deadly Dispute.
Okay, so Deadly Dispute. It gets them a treasure.
Mm.
And the treasure does let them copy the card again. Sorry.
Oh, and he claims
Oh
that removes, I believe, one of the blockers here.
yes, it does, and it also gets them another attacker.
All right, and we still believe there's 2 black mana. No, there's no mana floating now. So this is it.
So is this attacks? This is a horrific board state. I have spilled all my cards all over the floor, and it has looked more coherent.
I know. I half the time I had no idea what those cat tokens were doing, mate. Like,
Yeah. So the middle fable. Okay.
There was an
So
agreement.
it looked like Rakdos Sacrifice won. It looked like that was game. I believe they had enough to get them over the edge.
I feel
So-
like. I feel like.
I think Rakdos Sac won both games 1 and 2.
Yes. But
I think
no.
potentially our technical person may have
No,
made
no,
a
no, no.
mistake.
Well, what's
with
happened
draws.
here? Well, what's actually happened here is, so Gruul Aggro did win this because in that particular board state, Rakdos couldn't get enough damage through in order to win the game because they'd lose on the crackback with the Regisaur entirely.
No. They did win. They had enough for lethal. They had enough. All they needed to deal was 7 damage.
Well, what did they have enough of lethal with? Because they had the cat, the 2/2 cat, and they
They had the
had
2 cat, and I think they had like 3 or 4 fables, didn't they? I wasn't sure how many fables they had left.
with 1 block. Like, if they had 3, I think they had 3 there. So one of them would have been blocked. He would have dealt 6 damage to the Gruul Aggro player, put him down to 1, crackback. But I actually, upon revision, I believe you are right, Jay. It is a tie currently, although the Rakdos Sack player should have won game 1.
No, I don't think it's a tie. I believe Rakdos Sack player did win game 1, and a technical person made a small mistake, and Rakdos Sack actually 2-0'd Gruul Aggro.
I do not believe
Gruul Aggro actually did take the draw. I'm so confused. How have we managed to watch 2 games of Magic and not know who won either of them?
I mean, I'm convinced Rakdos Sack won, but
I'm convinced Rakdos Sack won both games.
yeah, but I don't think Rakdos Sack technically won game 1.
Yeah, I'm really.
I do not know what.
I mean, it looks like they're de-sideboarding, so it looks like there's no.
Maybe round was over. No, I think this was time on the round, that one. Right. I'm not gonna lie, Dave. That was an entirely scuffed commentary. We had nothing to talk about half the time because I had no idea what was going on.
Oh,
This was an entirely scuffed commentary.
Dave, who the fuck won?
So officially, Jay, on the night they did draw.
Where's the draw?
It's on record.
Wait, so they won 1 each.
Yeah, but we know Dave should have won game 1.
Yeah. Yeah, Dave should have. I think it's still worth uploading.